Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Visit Tuscaloosa.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome into the latest edition of Tider Insider TV, presented by Visit Tuscaloosa, alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris. Alabama football fall camp is well underway, and of course, we get to cover the team. Rodney's been to every practice. Our WVUA TV 23 crews have been there as well for every practice, and that's where we're going to open up here on this edition of Tider Insider TV. Alabama held fall camp practice number 5 today. They practiced Wednesday, Thursday last week, took Friday off. Practiced Saturday and Sunday, held media day yesterday, then day 5 today, still in shells. That's shorts, shoulder pads, and helmets. Tomorrow they'll go in full pads for the first time. More on that in a moment. But we're going to break down what we've seen so far. Rodney, let's start with the secondary, because there's been so much discussion about how many guys they've got back there, how athletic they are, how long, how fast. It's a secondary that some observers are saying might be the best in the country.
You know what's amazing about it to me is a year ago this time, I think that's one of the things that was really a question mark with a lot of the players that Alabama had lost. You know, they lost Kool-Aid McKinstry, they lost Terry and Arnold, Caleb Downs transferred. A lot of people said that's going to be a weakness, and just how quickly they've rebuilt this secondary. I thought they did a really nice job for the most part last year. I mean, there were some issues, but when you look at this, you got Zabian Brown back, you've got Damani Jackson back at the corners, you've got Bray Hubbard now with a lot of experience. When Keon Sabb went down last year, Sabb is back this year. You've got Zay Mincy back there at safety too, as a guy that's going to play a lot. I think the true freshman Ivan Taylor's another guy that potentially could be someone to watch. But I mean, it's just a secondary. We could go on and on. Dejon Lee at corner. Cam Calhoun's a guy that's going to really make an impact, whether he plays some at corner or is at the Husky position. Again, there's a lot of guys, Gary, when you look at that secondary. You talked about the length, the athleticism, all of those things are there.
Let's talk about the inside linebackers. Justin Jefferson and Deontay Lawson, probably the two of the fastest and most athletic linebackers in the country. Both are back when last year we didn't think either one would be back. Unfortunately for Deontay Lawson, he had a season-ending knee injury against Oklahoma. That's really why he is back. He looks good, but he's still wearing that big knee brace, and hopefully by the time the season rolls around, he'll be able to take that thing off. Yeah,
he looks a little slimmer, I think. You know, he's listed at 228, but he's moved around extremely well, and the opportunities that I've watched him, had to watch him, I think Deontay's moved really, really well at that inside backer spot. Now, he's wearing a big knee brace. You mentioned Justin Jefferson coming back, obviously, that's really big too. I mean, he brings some experience, brings a lot of speed. Nakai Hill-Green, the transfer from Colorado, got some young players at that position as well. So, going to be really interesting to see how they develop this year.
Freshman Latzir Brooks, a really fast wide receiver, has been slowed some during fall camp.
Yeah,
What's his status?
Yeah, and he's a guy that, I think coming into camp, you thought, look, this is one freshman that's got a great opportunity maybe to kind of get in that rotation, and he does. He still does. It doesn't seem to be anything serious. We watched him today on the stationary bike, Gary, as he was conditioning. He was wearing a boot earlier, the last 2 practices, but he was really pumping those pedals on that stationary bike, so he looks like he's close to coming back.
All right, I know you want to talk about the lines of scrimmage, because that's where games are won still in the SEC. Regardless of how the games have changed, you better be able to hold up front. Let's start on the defensive line. Position coach Freddie Roach has got a lot of athletic guys. The numbers are good. Alabama defensive line play has not been bad, but it hasn't been up to the standard that it was maybe 5-10 years ago. Is this the year this defensive line breaks out and has an opportunity to be dominant again?
You know, I think they've got a lot of really, really good players. Whether or not they have the Jonathan Allens and the Ashawn Robinson and all those guys, I don't know that they're at that level. But I'll say this, I do think they have some really good players. I mean, you talk about Tim Keenan. Now, we'll say one guy. Keep an eye on number 23, James Smith. I think he could become a guy that would become that dominant type player, Gary. He has all the tools. LT Overton, potential first-round draft pick. So those 3 guys, now it's the depth behind them that you want to see develop. You see Jordan Renaud right there, number 11. He's one of those guys that I think has an opportunity. There's James Smith, number 23. We mentioned him. But, Gary, I think there's some guys, Jeremiah Beeman, Edric Hill, Keon Keeley. Those types of guys, when they step up, if they step up, certainly they need to step up, because you always have to have that rotation on the defensive line.
And off the edge, it appears that Alabama has some talent there that has the potential to really get after the quarterback.
Well, we're going to certainly see. I think that's one thing that they need. I think Quay Russaw is a guy that has those tools. Now, he was banged up last year, but remember early, he had a really big play against Georgia. Those are the kind of plays you want to see him make, where he's disruptive, strips the ball as a pass rusher, does those types of things. He's got it. Johannes Pierre's a guy that's really kind of starting to come around. They have some other players at that position we've talked about before. Noah Carter, a young player that DeBoer brought in his first recruiting class, and others. So we'll see how it all kind of develops, but there is a ton of potential up front.
All right, let's get to the offensive line. Last week, Senator Parker Brailsford predicted that Alabama would win the Joe Moore Award. At Media Day, he walked that back a little bit and said they believe that they have the potential to, and that's the goal. Will Conformi said the same thing. He said if we perform to our potential, we have a chance to do that. Maybe not quite to the level that people have confidence in the secondary as being one of the best units in the country, but I get a strong feeling that people inside the football building think this offensive line could be one of the best in the country.
Well, look, Parker Brailsford was part of a Joe Moore award-winning unit at Washington, so he has a pretty good eye for that. But I would say this, too. You know, when you look at that offensive line, it was really good to hear Ryan Grubb today, Gary, when he talked about the depth. He talked about Jackson Lloyd, the true freshman, at left tackle, Michael Carroll at right tackle. Olasa Lennon's a guy that now is developing, could play tackle or guard. When you have three guys like that, and I'm talking about in reserve, and that's not even talking about Geno Vandermark, who is your interior guy, the swing guy, both guards and center, they're building some depth there. Obviously, Caden Proctor's got a world of potential. I think Will Conformi at right tackle, this is the year he takes a big step, I think. He's had a really good offseason. Jaden Roberts back at that right guard spot. He's a 3-year starter. And Cam Dewberry, that's a guy we've talked about how many times on this show? Many times about at that left guard spot, the transfer from Texas A&M has a lot of SEC experience. He could be a real key.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed, and listen, you got to go out and play on the field, but they look good. I mean, you mentioned Olasa Lennon. I mean, put him at the front of the bus. I mean, these guys, Formby, Proctor, I mean, they look like offensive linemen. I mean, and they look like they're in shape.
Well, look, I said this on Sunday in my update. I said, you know, there's no doubt David Ballou and his staff, they did a fantastic job of laying the foundation, getting these guys ready. If they play as well as they look, this is a deep playoff team. I mean, they look really good on the hoof. And again, how it translates remains to be seen.
All right, what does it Deion says? You look good, you feel good, you feel good, you play good, you play good, you get paid good, you pay good. You live good. Yeah. So maybe that offensive line's ready to do that. All right, now it's time for Coach Talk. As we stated earlier, pads go on tomorrow. And, you know, coaches love to say that you don't know who a football player really is until you go full contact. Alabama defensive coordinator Kane Womack agrees with that, saying when pads go on is when jobs are won and playing time is earned.
Anytime we go live, you know, we tell our guys all the time, right? Live work is the closest thing we can do to simulate a game-like scenario to you, right? And so I put a premium on that, right? How they play, how they respond, how they produce in that moment, I think is the closest indicator we can give them to what they're going to do on game day. And so, you know, you see it all the time, right? Freshmen win jobs, they win responsibilities, they win playing time.
Pads going tomorrow. They'll practice tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday, and then scrimmage, Rodney, on Saturday.
That scrimmage is really big. I mean, it's kind of, you're going to get a better idea of where they stand.
All right, real quickly, because we didn't mention the quarterbacks. Still no starter named. Is Ty Simpson still the leader in the clubhouse, in your opinion?
Yeah, everything I hear, Gary, and I'm talking about people that have observed practices, they say, you know, Ty's had a really good start to camp.
Yeah, they got a good group of QBs out there. Still to come on Tider Insider Television, Alabama had a loss in-state recruiting last week, and they'd hoped to kind of close out in-state recruiting in style. It didn't happen. We'll have that for you. Plus, Nick Saban continues to leave his mark on the state, even though he's no longer coaching football at Alabama. It's his favorite day of the year. The Knicks Kids Luncheon held today inside the zone at Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. We'll have that story. Plus, a little bit later on, we'll get in your phone calls, emails, and tweets. As always, that phone number, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Go ahead and give us a ring. We'll put you on hold and get you ready to visit with us a little bit later on in the show. We'll be right back with the show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tider Insider TV. And welcome back to Tider Insider Television, presented by Visit Tuscaloosa. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Well, the annual Media Day for Alabama football was held yesterday inside the Cape Crisp Indoor Facility, and there were fans from Yale, Alabama that were on hand as well. They put it inside, Rodney, probably thinking this way to beat the heat, and it turned out to be 67 to 8 degrees yesterday. But still, a big day for football and media. We had an hour to interview various players, and we were able to talk with a lot of them, coaches and players, in fact. And as we said, some fans through the Yale, Alabama program were on hand as well. So it was a really cool day yesterday inside the Hank Crisp Indoor Facility. And then today, speaking of cool days, Nick and Terry Saban hosted the annual Nick's Kids Luncheon inside the north end zone of Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. During the 2025 giveaway, the Sabans distributed over $775,000 to many nonprofit organizations. This is incredible. Thanks to the generosity of donors and the efforts of Nick and Terry Saban, the Nick's Kids Foundation, Rodney, has raised nearly $16 million for organizations and causes since the Sabans arrived in Tuscaloosa in 2007. Nick says it's his favorite day of the year. All right, let's get to recruiting. There was a big three in Alabama this year, we felt like, with Cedarian Morgan, the wide receiver at Benjamin Russell in Alex City, Xavier Crowell, the running back at Jackson, and Tank Jones, the edge rusher down at St. Paul's Episcopal in Mobile. Alabama got commitments from Crowell and Morgan. It looked for a while like they were going to get Tank Jones too, but Oregon came in with a really nice NIL deal, then some more money reportedly from Nike, and Tank Jones on Friday committed to the Ducks.
He did, but one thing about it, though, as we know, you mentioned this last week, it's not over till it's over.
Not.
He hasn't signed yet, and there's some buzz that Alabama may come back later in the process, and Tank could reconsider. Listen, he grew up an Alabama fan. Mm-hmm. His family has allegiances to Alabama. I'm not sure this is 100% done. Mm-hmm. But right now, he is committed to Oregon.
All right, Rodney, just a quick word on recruiting. Alabama's got 21 verbal commits. And as we look ahead, there's probably not that many more players, obviously, if they go back in on Tank Jones. But it looks like, for the most part, this recruiting cycle is pretty much wrapped up.
And Gary, talking to people around the country, around the Southeast specifically, and these aren't Alabama fans. These are people that are in the media and unbiased and coaches and what have you. This class, you mentioned 21, they think it's loaded, and these are people on the outside. Mm-hmm. And I agree with them. I think they've done a fantastic job of addressing a lot of the things areas that they wanted to address. And we could talk about receiver, which they got great players there, linebacker, some defensive linemen, offensive linemen. But Gary, when you sign two quarterbacks, when you really need depth at that position, and quality-looking quarterbacks, when you talk about Jet Tamala and Taden Kava, this is a fantastic job, I think, overall, the class that they have right now. If they add others, be great. Now, I do think eventually they'll add some guys in the portal.
All right, that's your recruiting update. Still to come on TITV, Nate Oats brings in a familiar face and former SEC Player of the Year who's really already on staff, but now he's gotten a promotion. We'll have details on that. And coming up next, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. I understand phone lines are active tonight. That's what we want to hear with fall camp. 205-348-9882 is the number if you want to give us a ring. We'll be right back with more of the show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tider Insider TV. Alabama men's basketball news. Erwin Dudley is one of the best players ever at the University of Alabama. I know. I saw it firsthand. I covered him. He was SEC Player of the Year, and he's been back at Alabama on staff as a kind of an assistant, basketball manager position at Alabama. But now he's been promoted to special assistant to the head coach after being a graduate manager the past 2 seasons. Erwin Dudley told Aaron Suttles from Yale, Alabama, that he'll do whatever coach needs. And Coach Oats said, listen, he's done an unbelievable job. He has got a bright future in coaching. I like Erwin Dudley. He's a class act. Good to have him associated again with Alabama basketball. All right, welcome back into TITV alongside Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris, and we're going to jump right out on the phones because they are finally backed up for us tonight, the way we like it. Let's start off with Corey over in Trussville. Hey, Corey.
Hey, Gary. How you doing this afternoon?
Doing well.
My question is, what concern should Alabama fans see of Gus Malzahn being the offensive coordinator since he gave Alabama Fitz being the play caller when he was at Auburn?
Yeah, Corey, I think Alabama fans should be concerned. I think Gus Malzahn, as I've said before, has a very competitive dislike for the University of Alabama. He beat Nick Saban 3 times when he was at Auburn, and I think that he will pour himself into this game with everything that he's got. It's the first game of the year. I've talked to some media friends of mine down there in the Tallahassee area, and they said, listen, Florida State wants to win all their games, like every school does, but they are selling out for this first game, Rodney. Newly renovated Doak Campbell Stadium. They bring in Gus Malzahn. 2 years ago, Alabama, they feel like took their spot in the playoffs. Then last year, they went 2-10. They've reshaped their roster. I don't see this as a game where, if you're an Alabama fan, you just go, oh boy, this is going to be a rout. I don't see it that way. I think Alabama fans need to be concerned, and I think the team needs to make sure they're prepared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, look, I think with Malzahn, it's probably the unpredictability of, like you said, it's the first game. This is the one they've been preparing for. So I think that's certainly a key. I do say this, though, Corey, they've got a lot of players that they brought in through the transfer portal. Yeah, this is Malzahn's first game there as the offensive coordinator. They've got a new quarterback, Thomas Castellanos. All of those things probably aren't going to be, really flowing or early in terms of being in sync. So that would be one thing that I would think probably might be an advantage for Alabama. But just with Malzahn's first game, I just think it's the unpredictability.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, let's go to Sammy up in Walker County. Hey, Sammy, how are you?
Hello, Gary and Rodney. How y'all doing?
Doing well.
Guys. I'm always looking for a new explosive punt or kickoff return guy. And Rodney and Gary, do you think the young freshman a chance to get on the field, the Brooks kid from New Jersey, you think he might be have a chance? Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Sammy. Look, I think Latsier Brooks eventually could do that. He might do it early. I mean, I don't know. Right now, he hasn't practiced in a couple of days, so hopefully he can get back on the field very quickly. But, yeah, he has that talent. I mean, there are certainly a lot of guys that I think could do that, could be in the mix there. I mean, obviously Ryan Williams would be one, too. Jalen Mbakwe has done that some in the past. Jeremy Bernard has done it some, did it at Washington. So, again, I think Latsier Brooks could potentially be one of those guys, certainly.
All right, thank you, Sammy. Let's get one more phone call in before we have to go to the break, and that's Dale down in Moundville. Hey, Dale.
Hey, fellas. It looked like Corey took my question, but I'm going to ask another one. I have a backup.
Okay.
Keon Keeley, is this the year he needs to break out for Alabama? Because I really personally think he's going to have a breakout year if he gets the opportunity. I really want to see him play. I think he could be a big difference maker, and Alabama needs a monster on that edge, man. I think he can provide it.
Yeah, thank you, Dale. Let me start on this one, Rodney, because a couple things here. The staff's been patient with him, and he's been patient with the staff. And I think that is going to lead to really good things for Keon Keeley, maybe this season.
Yeah, and I think, too, with changing positions, he came here as a linebacker, was going to be that jack linebacker in Saban's system, and then now he's moved to a defensive end, bandit defensive end position. He had to kind of add weight, get bigger, change his body. He's done a fantastic job of that. Now that he's had a year at that spot, he's kind of more familiar, comfortable with it. I think, when you look at him, he's a guy, Gary, that Dale may be right. He could be a guy that certainly becomes a strong factor on the defensive line in some situations.
All right, coming up on TITV, we're going to get to our email question of the day. Plus, some former Alabama football players are doing a podcast that isn't just about football. These guys play in the NFL, but they're talking about mental health for men dealing with some issues that might be uncomfortable to talk about. We'll have the story, and we'll get to more of your phone calls, emails, and tweets. As we said, the email of the day coming up, plus 205-348-9882. If you want to visit with us here on the program, we'll be right back. More TITV after this break. Great night last week for Tony Dixon, the former Alabama and Dallas Cowboys defensive back, along with his former Alabama teammate Kelf Bailey and former Stillman football player and local businessman Eric McAlpine. They held a meet and greet for Tony Dixon and friends, a podcast that isn't just about sports. It's about real issues that men face after football or whatever they're dealing in their lives, and focuses on good mental health for men. So really something special. You can find it anywhere you get your podcast. That's Tony Dixon and Friends. All right, let's get to our email question of the day. Our email question of the day is brought to you by KDM Service Corporations. When it comes to heating and air conditioning, we serve your family like our family. All right, do you think Kane Womack should move to the press box to see the field better? That's from Todd in Tuscaloosa.
You know what? I think he ought to do whatever he feels most comfortable doing. I mean, Yeah, he was on the field last year. That's a good question. We'll see if he remains on the field this year.
All right, he'll do, like you said, I think whatever he thinks is best. All right, let's get to Michael on the phone down in Moundville. Hey, Michael, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well.
I got a question about Hubbard.
Okay.
Number 18. What do y'all think his progress is this year?
Oh, I think Bray Hubbard's got a chance to be a really fine football player. I mean, I think he's physical. I think he's athletic. He's obviously proven he can play the pass. He can also come up and support and run. I think that he's got a chance to be an all-conference player.
You know, and the thing about it, Gary, we talk about all the stars and the great players and all of this, you know, coming out of high school. And Bray Hubbard was committed as a baseball player to Southern Miss, came here to camp. This shows you the value of camp. Nick Saban spotted him right away, offered him a scholarship. And, you know, when he got his opportunity, he came up big last year because it could have really been tough with that secondary with the injuries that they had, but Bray Hubbard really stepped in.
All right, thanks for the phone calls and emails. We'll come back and wrap up this edition of TITV right after this. Thanks for tuning in to Tider Insider TV. A reminder, if you missed any of tonight's show or you want to catch it again, it will replay tonight at 10:30, following the news at 10, and online anytime at WVOA23.com. All right, we're going to leave you tonight with former Alabama basketball player Mo Williams, who was a star in Jackson, Mississippi at Murrah High School and is now the coach at Jackson State, one of the best basketball players that state's ever produced. He was inducted into the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame this past weekend over in his hometown of Jackson, Mississippi. All right, for Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll be back next Tuesday night on Tider Insider TV. Good night.